today with Youness, the founder of Ecodome here in Morocco in Casablanca. Thank you so much for making the time.
With great pleasure. With great pleasure.
My first question is for people that don't know what Ecodome is, how do you explain it? What does Ecodome do?
Well, Ecodome is an enterprise that is specialized in ecological construction. We do ecological houses and infrastructure for rural tourism because we've noticed that when we travel in Morocco, in Africa, or in the Middle East, there are a lot of sites that have a great touristic potential but don't have necessarily the adequate infrastructure in order to bring value to that potential and in order to sustain the flow of tourists in that area, and also in order to propose the adequate comforts according to that potential. And the fact of building it using traditional methods like concrete or wood or steel here in Morocco won't necessarily provide the adequate comfort when it comes to climate conditions. So we said, why not using local resources, mainly earth, and create an infrastructure that adjusts to that climate conditions, and this at the same time could sustain the flow of tourists and propose an added value to that trip or to that exploration travel.
So basically, what you're saying is that the earth domes, the ecodomes, inside are much cooler than the normal houses.
Exactly. Actually, what we do is that we dimension the thickness of walls according to extreme weather conditions. And when we dimension the correct thickness, we can have this capacity of adjusting naturally to weather conditions. In other terms, it is cool during summer and it is warm during winter.
Wow.
And we are exploring what we call the thermal inertia of the earth, of the material earth. Actually, it is some kind of combining between what our ancestors used to do with earth with some modern technical studies, engineering studies regarding this type of constructions.
So how did you come up with this idea to basically build houses?
Yeah, the idea started in 2014 when I was still an engineering student in Hassaniya School here in Casablanca. And I was taking part of an association that promotes social entrepreneurship to solve problems in society through entrepreneurship. And since our training and our studies were oriented civil engineering, construction, and working on construction fields, we set as a problematic the one of slums, fighting slums. And we did a lot of researches, and we heard about the work of an Iranian-American architect called Nader Khalili, who developed a technique that called the super adobe technique, that consists on using bags that we used to use in stocking les produits agroalimentaires, which means products, agroalimentary products. And instead of buying them in pieces, we buy them in shape of tubes, 1 kilometer tube or 2 kilometer tube in length. And we use them by filling them with the material earth, stabilized or not, depending on a geotechnical studies. And we have invested our learnings, engineering learnings, in order to come up with a product that respects at the same time the cultural context of Morocco, that revives the patrimony in earthen construction here in Morocco, and at the same time proposes the same comfort that we can find in modern constructions.
Yeah, and I can relate, because when I travel, usually I want something that is it's local. It's not something that I find anywhere, and gives me a feeling of culture, I would say, but it still gives me the comfort. So it makes a lot of sense to me. So how did you build your own house? How did you get money for building the first ecodome?
The first ecodome was a 7 meter square prototype in Hassania School of Public Works. And how we financed the prototype was through sponsorship.
Okay.
So we knocked every doors in order to get the
How many doors did you knock?
a lot of them, and only 2 or 3 were opened to our suggestions. So, but we managed to make a fundraising in order to build, in order to buy all necessary materials and train local workers when it comes to mastering earthen techniques, and we did it in Hassania. And then we started the communication about it, mainly about the different advantages that we can take from an earthen construction. Mainly the price. We can reduce the price compared to traditional methods up to 50%.
50%, wow.
And we can obtain very interesting characteristics when it comes to thermal isolation and even acoustical isolation. And the third most interesting advantage is that it fits in the natural landscape.
Yeah.
So, and through this communication, we started getting clients who would like to build an ecodome in a farm, or who would like to use it as a resort for tourists, or and other use of the concept.
Okay. So they approach you because you had publicity, or how do you find these clients?
The biggest part was through publicity, and we organized events around the prototype so that people can see and
showcase.
Touch the ecodome, hit the wall and see if it's gonna fall or not, and through some water on
that's a good question.
Through the water in order to see whether it's gonna infiltrate or not. So those are some basic tests, and some basic fears that we understood, and we wanted that people will test by themselves the tenacity of the ecodome.
Okay, so there's no water coming in.
No, don't worry about that.
Like, you have to live with that. But it's 50% cheaper.
Exactly.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. And did you ever have any challenges during starting this project?
Yeah. Actually, we had a lot of challenges. The first challenge was how to build up a team. Because in the beginning it was just an idea, and even when we built the prototyping, there was no enterprise back then. And I got my diploma in 2015, and in order to get into a serious business, to start a serious enterprise, I had to work for 2 years as a civil engineer in technical studies office, and I had to make some economy through my salary in order to launch the enterprise.
So basically you were working and saving up money.
Exactly. And at this, while I was working, I was doing some prospect work in order to get clients, and once I reach the necessarily funding, I can start working with them.
So basically, while you were working a day job, you were reaching out and trying to get your first clients and realizing the first project.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, and after 2 years, I managed to make enough economies in order to train the first team of workers, and to start my first command officially as an enterprise, as an Ecodome Maroc enterprise. The first command was in April 2017.
This was the first job that you took on as a business?
Yeah, as an enterprise. Okay. It was a house of 72 meters square in a farm for a client who wanted to have a secondary house where he can spend the spring vacation with his kids and enjoy the nature.
Wow. And how many houses have you built up till now?
Up to today, we have built 10 ecodomes, 4 houses, 5 villas, and 1 ecological center.
Okay.
That is the most interesting reference that we have is that we partnered with a local association in a small village called Agouim, between Marrakesh and Ouarzazate. The problem there was when local students go out the college or the primary school, they didn't have a cultural space where they can do extracurricular activities, or they can simply sit to read the book or do play with each other or something like that. And during the winter, since the village is in the Atlas Mountains, it was faced by severe weather conditions.
Yeah.
During winter, we can notice -5 to -10 degree, and there is a lot of snow there. And during summer, it can reach 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, which is really hard for those students to stay in a building built using concrete or other materials, because it doesn't provide the comfort in order to explode that building. So the idea was to use the local materials, mainly earth, and come up with a design that respects the cultural identity of the village when it comes to roofing and painting and doing the extra coating. And we did it with the local association.
Yeah.
We've built an ecological center that can be used during winter and during summer with the maximum comfort that you can have in the inside.
Wow, it's really nice. So what you said is that you have the ecodomes, but then you also do villas. Are these villas also ecological, or are they completely different projects in traditional manner with concrete?
In the villas, we combine between structures,
Okay.
but they are mainly ecological structures.
Okay.
So you can find a part that is done using earth and another part that is done using wood, but the whole house is insulated,
Okay.
following the local climate.
Yeah. Okay. So ecological, that's your brand.
Yeah.
Ecodomes, you only do ecological.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. And is the business already self-sustaining, or yeah, where are you in your? What is your vision?
Well, when we talk about the vision, we have to talk about the mentality that we have here in Morocco, and I think that we have it in all Africa. Is that when we talk about the earth material, we associate that material to poverty, which isn't correct, because when we build a house in a mountain or in the desert using concrete, we're not respecting the local conditions, especially the climate conditions. And when we start exploiting that building, we find out that we are spending more money in air conditioning, in heating, and other stuff in order to cool the humidity in the inside of the house. Things that we can avoid if we use correctly local materials with some engineering studies, and we can fix all these things naturally. So when we talk about our vision, it is based mainly on reviving this patrimony, showcasing the advantages behind using earth as a local raw material, and showcasing all the advantages that we can have through using this material, mainly the fact that it's cheap, the fact that there is in abundance, we can find it nearly everywhere, and the fact that we can train locals who can build their own houses, who can build their own infrastructure, whether in education, whether in healthcare, or in other vital sectors.
Yeah.
So this is the main vision, is to revive this patrimony and to give people who don't have necessarily the economical level to have their own house or to have their own infrastructure, so they can become capable of doing it.
I love it. Very good.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Basically, you build cheaper houses, they're durable, that you don't have to cool them down, and also they share a good narrative about what buildings in the local environment was always about.
Yeah.
So good. Wow,
Yeah.
what a change maker.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. What would be your advice to other change makers or founders or people that are just thinking about starting their own business?
In Africa or
Yeah,
on?
in Africa or even in Morocco.
Well, when we talk about Africa, we talk about it like if it is an underdeveloped continent. And the message that I might share with my fellow change makers is that we can change our way of seeing this. Instead of seeing the negative side, we can consider this as an opportunity to create businesses. Because when we go to Europe, the market there is very saturated when we talk about ecological concepts and different concepts. But when we come to Africa, we have a very fertile battlefield. There are a lot of problems that we can solve through entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. All what we need to do is that we have to take the initiative. We have the gray material, we have the thinking, we have the knowledge, and go for it, guys. Don't
Makes
wait.
so much sense. I've been observing the same. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Is it okay if we talk about your business and the numbers again?
Yeah.
Are you profitable at the moment with your business?
Yeah. Beginning this year, yeah, we are profitable.
Wow, so you can continue the business as long as you like, and it's only upward from here.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Great. So have there been any other architects or civil engineers who have become interested and said, "Oh, maybe I want to take this up"?
Actually, we are talking about the concept with architects here in Morocco, so that they can propose it for future projects, and it is appealing to them when it comes to building infrastructure for education or healthcare, especially in rural areas where we don't have necessarily the correct access in order to bring raw materials from cities or from manufacturers. And the fact that we use local materials, it's very encouraging and very promising in order to solve problems locally. So yeah, we are making several partnerships with the architects here in Morocco. And just we have also done some prospections here in Africa. The first one was in Tunisia, and the second one was in the Ivory Coast. Because with those two countries, we have some similarities when it comes to the earthen patrimony in construction. And we got a positive feedback, and we have even some similarities when it comes to construction regulations. So if we're meant to scale up in Africa, it's going to be first of all in Tunisia and Ivory Coast, and then we can go to the Central Africa, and why not South Africa, and cover the whole continent.
Yes, this is very good. What did your family say when you said, "Okay, all right, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm now gonna start my own business"?
The reaction wasn't that supportive. Because you have to know that here in Morocco, when you go through a quality education, we are following the French system. I got my baccalaureate degree with an honorable mention. Then I integrated the preparatory classes. It is according to the French system, a 2-year preparatory classes supercharged with mathematics, physics, and very very theoretical studies. And then if you make it through preparatory classes, you are eligible to integrate an engineering school. Hassaniya School of Public Works is ranked among the first schools here in Morocco, mainly in civil engineering. So when I got my diploma, my parents were very proud. And they were more proud when I got my first job.
So why you go all the way?
Exactly. I had all the financial comfort and the comfort of living.
Yeah.
as an engineer. And then when I decided to quit my job in order to focus 100% on the startup, they didn't approve. They didn't approve. So I went through a process of convincing them. I had to take my parents to visit a construction site in order to see what is concretely an ecodome.
Your son has not gone crazy.
Yeah, just relax. I know what I'm doing. And this is how they bought it.
Mm-hmm. And then they became supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was difficult because when we switched to working on a startup, financially speaking, you don't have a stable lines of generating revenue. So you have to put up some efforts and make expenses count.
Yeah. Well, now they're your biggest fans, I assume.
Yeah, they're very proud of me. Yeah, actually, I totally understand their reaction because we've lived in different generations. Their generation was about securing a job and making a family and providing all the needs of that family. But in our generation, the challenges that we have, the comfort of living that we've reached, we're looking for other things. We're looking for risks. We are looking for adventures. We are looking for experimenting new experiences and challenging the statu quo and doing things outside of the box. Yeah. We're not like the older generation. They had their issues. We have our issues. Yeah. So we have to adjust ourselves with what we have. Yeah. And the fact of launching our own projects, it's a way of expressing that need of taking risks, that need of having adventures.
Wow. Love it. So what's your personal dream?
My personal dream, on a professional level, as I've said, is to revive this earthen construction patrimony and give people who don't have necessarily adequate economical resources access to infrastructure. Either it is a house or an ecological center or a healthcare center. On a personal level, I just want to how to say it, to feel the personal achievements. We have the pyramid of Maslow, and the highest level of the pyramid is to feel that you have achieved something in your life, that you have left a legacy behind you. Yeah. And I think that through working on Ecodome, I'm on the right path, hoping that I'm going to make it by the end of the adventure, by the end of my life. That people will say that that person has left a legacy that made an impact, a positive impact, and changed people's lives.
Wow! Thank you so much for sharing that. Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure.